to talk today about artificial intelligence in general, and I want to sort of place it in the context that I think is appropriate for the way that AI will evolve and will roll out to impact society. You might get a clue where I think that will come from the title of my talk. So you will all have seen lots about AI in the movies. Pick your favourite film that involves AI. There are a selection of them up here. There are others. I tried to find a film where AI was good or for a force of good, but actually that's not really possible to do, or I couldn't find it. So if anyone knows of one, I'm very happy to hear about it afterwards. So AI really does capture the imagination of society, and a lot of what many people in the general public feel about AI is captured by what they see in movies. It's also becoming sort of increasingly apparent that AI is important. So some people have quite a strident, strong view, I would suggest. So Stephen Hawking's, the development of full AI could spell the end of the human race. That's quite a strong opinion, I think. Elon Musk, AI is our biggest existential threat. My favorite is Vladimir Putin, and this is a very Putin-like quote, I think. Whoever becomes the leader in AI will become the ruler of the world, which is fantastic that the world is going to have a ruler. And the UK Prime Minister also is very keen on AI, but not perhaps on world dominance. So I've been an AI researcher now for 30 years, ever since I stopped trying to become a professional soccer player. And during that time, I've seen a number of rises in enthusiasm for AI, and it's going to be the next great thing. As I said, I've been through a number of those in my time. In between, I've also been associated with a technology that is deemed to have failed, that you can't get funding for, and that is entirely useless. So, I've seen the whole spread of activities and attitudes towards AI. So why is AI so popular? And I've put in brackets again because it is again. So I think there are a number of reasons for this. Firstly, we now have much better, cheaper processing power at our disposal. AI is complex computer science. It's complex algorithms. And so having the ability to process algorithms and data at scale is a fundamental part of that. We also are living in a world and an environment where there is an increasing number of connected devices. So on us, in our world, around us, that we access at home, work, and play. And these devices provide ever more information. So ever more of everything that we do can now be measured and combined in ways that we don't necessarily think of when we generate the data. So for me, this sort of leads to the following argument. There's a huge volume of information out there that we could and should take into account when we're deciding what we want to decide, what actions we want to be able to take. And I think we need assistance to be able to cope with that volume and speed of information coming at us. And so we need artificial intelligence to help us process that volume of information. I think this is true across all information-rich domains, which I think is almost all domains. Now, my contention is that machines alone can rarely do all of a complex activity. So we see AI doing bits of activities really well, but rarely all of a complex activity. So I'm very much of the believer that AI will automate subtasks of what we do, and I genuinely believe that there will always be activities that humans are best at. So this very much leads you, those two sort of positions lead you to the view that actually what we want to be able to do with this advanced, helpful technology is to build effective partnerships. So move away from humans being the masters and technology the slave, which is how we interact a lot with computers at the moment, and really recognize that there is complementary expertise and roles of the two. And there's a picture of Licklider up there, who essentially argued this view right at the foundation of AI. So, it is not a new view that sort of we have complementary expertise and we should be working together. So I want to talk you through some specifics of a project that I was involved with called ORCID. It was about human agent collectives, where we tried to make this vision of humans and AI working together as a team. So it comes along the lines of wanting machines to be more helpful and be better problem-solving partners. We want to bring together digital and physical world, and we want the machines to be able to make smart contributions, useful contributions to the task at hand, and to be better collaborators with us. So to understand and know how to collaborate with us. So some terminology we used in this particular project is we call the software intelligent agents, hence human agent collectives. So agents are just AI programs that can act autonomously and take the initiative. And a human agent collective is simply a combination of humans and machines working together to solve a particular task. So there are a number of traits and characteristics that I think are central to these sorts of systems and how you go about designing them. So the first of these is the notion of flexible autonomy. So neither the humans nor the agents are always in charge. The title is partnerships between the two, and I genuinely mean partnerships. So it doesn't mean that the humans always instruct the agents or that the humans simply follow what the agents tell them to do, although in both of those may happen in any given system. But it's not hardwired into the relationship. It's something that exists and that can work in that road, but it will change during the course of the operation. So humans act with varying degrees of computer support. So if you think about something like algorithmic trading, at the moment, that's quite an automated activity. The human's involvement in algorithmic trading is very limited at this moment. Conversely, if you think about sort of where autonomous vehicles are going, so sort of, again, this is very much looking towards that combination of having autonomous vehicles out there operating and providing various degrees of support to us, depending on how much autonomy we want to give to the cars and how long we want to give them that autonomy for. But you, at least in this country, and I'm sure you do in the US as well, you're forever reading stories about people who've just followed what their car sat-nav has told them to do. So you endlessly see, big lorries stuck in really small streets. You see cars that have driven into the sea, and which is what this picture is here, simply because the humans have abdicated their responsibility to act with humanity and simply blindly followed what a machine has told them to do, despite evidence the fact that they're heading towards water and this may or may not be a good idea. Okay, so it's not just about following instructions from machines, it's about understanding how they fit together and not just relying on one another. So that's flexible autonomy. The partnership bit, almost all interesting systems involve multiple different actors. Rarely is an interesting system just composed of one actor, one human, one AI system. There are some, but in general, that's not the norm. So most interesting systems have a number of different actors, humans and agents, as part of their team. And what you want to be able to do is to continually establish and manage those collaborative relationships. So a group of agents and people come together for a particular task, do it, then disband. So coming together in that agile way. And sort of forming, operating, some of them might operate over longer time scales, some might operate over shorter time scales. But sort of coming together, doing stuff, and then disbanding. So the third sort of main facet, key component of these sorts of systems is the way that you build them and instruct them and get them to do things. So I'm a big believer in incentives. So in these systems, rarely is it all under the control of one organization that has an entirely consistent way of articulating its priorities. It's often composed of multiple actors with multiple aims and objectives, and so no one controls it. These systems are diverse and have decentralized control at their heart. And so here you're motivating or encouraging action by incentives, by the incentives that you put in place, the reward structures that you put in the system, rather than diktat. There's nothing that controls these sorts of systems. You want to encourage them to act in ways that give desirable behavior, as you see with Homer Simpson and his donuts here. So you want to design rewards so that the actions that are encouraged generate desirable outcomes. You have to think about what those desirable outcomes are, and you have to think about how you're going to engineer your incentives, but that's what that's about. And then consider what we need to know about humans in order to be able to do this. And then the final key component of this is about the information infrastructure on which these systems are built or operate. So what you want to be able to do in many cases these are open systems with a broad range of people and entities providing information in them, and you want to be able to work out what's high quality information, what's correct, what's high fidelity, and what is not. So you're very much interested in the veracity and the provenance of the information in these sorts of systems. You want to be able to make sense of heterogeneous data that's got varying degrees of reliability and accuracy, and you want to be able to make some inferences about that. So I think those four key attributes are what underpin these sorts of systems and the design and development of these sorts of systems. So now what I want to be able to do is just to run through an example of one of the systems that we built, or one of the demonstration systems that we built in ORCID. We built in a range of different application areas. We also built in smart energy and citizen science, but I want to talk about the work that we did in disaster response. And this is with our partners at Rescue Global. Rescue Global are a charity who respond to natural disasters. That's a couple of Rescue Global colleagues. If you think Thunderbirds, that's probably close enough to what they are. They have the uniforms. They fly in their own places, in their own plane to these places, and try and really be there on the ground. Okay, so that should be your mindset for how they work. Now, in ORCID, we had the luxury of having a long 5-year project, which actually, from a research perspective, lets you do things a bit differently rather than sort of a shorter term thing. So actually, we spent quite a lot of time doing ethnographic studies of how first responders operate in practice, and really sat alongside them. So here are a number of events that we went to with them to really see how first responders operate. So this is sort of getting a view of user requirements by observing, hence the ethnography piece of it, rather than sort of asking a user, what do you do and what do you want a computer system to do? This is a much more realistic way of doing it. So what we did was we then built a prototype system. And so this is a system that we deployed in Haiti and Nepal with Rescue Global. So the Haiti we developed a lot of the data on, and then we deployed it with them in Nepal. So one of the first things that you want to be able to do in a disaster is to be able to understand what is going on the ground. And so in a modern disaster, there's lots of information that's identified and comes in through various forms of social media and gathered by drones and people on the ground. And what you want to be able to do of that is to try and assess the situation. You want to try and make sense of what is going on the ground so that you can get that situational awareness. And here again, sort of coming back to the theme about humans and AI working together, we had lots of powerful AI and machine learning algorithms that are combining information from lots and lots of different sources. So if you've been looking at the screen behind me, you will have sort of seen various, you'll see a heat map of things of various colors, and the hotter the area is where there's deemed to be more people who require rescuing. So that's what the heat map is. So the hotter the area, the more people need attention within it. And so what the AI is doing is it's making sense of the things that are coming in from lots of different channels, a lot of it incomplete and contradictory, and some of it one subsequently finds out later is intentionally misleading. So if you say that your area has got a lot of people in it and got a lot of damage, you're more likely to get attention at the beginning of a disaster. So there is quite a natural human tendency to overestimate the area of damage that you find in your particular region. And so you have to make sense of this highly contradictory information. You have to work out what's malicious information, what's correct information. And so lots of algorithms working on that. Then what you're able to do, or what we were able to do, is to fuse that with human observations that we trusted. So Rescue Global would have people on the ground who would go to some of those areas and then start to make initial assessments of what's going on. And so the human is then providing high quality information that you trust. It's coming from a trusted source. And so those observations are then fed in and then ripple out into the surrounding area. So it helps calibrate what the machine has learnt from it by having a few trusted observations. And you can do the same. You can do the same with drones and UAVs. So the AI is summarizing huge volumes of information to highlight potential casualties. The responders are adding observation, and then AI is updating its assessment of what's going on. So there's that continual flow and continual working together of the of the humans and the people to make sense of what's going on with this. So we use this technology directly in Nepal specifically. So Rescue Global needed, one of the key tasks when they got there, as tasked by the government, was to determine placement of water filters within a 50-mile radius of Kathmandu. So we got some human expertise through a crowdsourcing site and combined that with mapping information and satellite information, and we folded it all in together through OpenStreetMap to try and infer population density using the algorithms that I've just spoken about. And what this identified was 12 areas and 12 regions that they should have that are important and worth going to see. Now, 8 of those they knew about. Their own techniques had given them. There were 4 areas that they didn't know about that our algorithms and the crowdsourcing and the people had helped identify that they didn't know about, that they subsequently deployed at and found to be every bit as valuable as the other 8. So there were 4 village areas that received attention that wouldn't have received it as quickly because of the algorithms and because of the way that we'd been able to do that. So once we've got the assessment of the situation, that's the first phase, you want to be able to respond to it. And so they have a number of drones that they want to be able to send out, or teams on the ground that they want to send out to explore the areas of where there's lots of heat, so where there's lots of people that they think require attention. And so when you have a team like that, again, we use the machine learning algorithms and some scheduling and planning algorithms to figure out which UAVs should go to which area. So that's a coordination problem. You don't want them all rushing to the single most important area in general. You want to be able to spread the team around, so you want to have appropriate coordination algorithms. And so what happened in this system was that the AI algorithms would do the initial assessment. Computers are very good at scheduling even under uncertainty these days, and would sort of make these assessments of these drones should go here and these ones should go there, and appropriately coordinating and scheduling them. But we found that actually what the Rescue Global operators wanted to be able to do was that they sometimes knew things, or in a decent number of cases, they knew things that if we're going to send a drone there, then actually we should make sure it flies by this area as well, because they knew things that weren't embedded in the system. So you had the humans then modifying some of the initial assessments. And again, the AI algorithms had to figure out how to recalibrate. So, if this drone is now not going there and it's going there, then you need to reassess it and not just reassign that one back to there, which is where you had it in the first place. So it's that mix interplay of the humans adding what they know, that extra context, on top of what the machines are very good at, which are scheduling algorithms and scheduling assets to minimize the time that it takes to respond to the complete operation. So again, you have that partnership. So using their experience, the first responders determine which teams are best suited to what areas, and AI algorithms compute the draft schedule to minimize make span completion time. Responders tweak as necessary. And then the AI systems are monitoring the incoming information streams for things that might invalidate or want to change some of those plans. Again, think of mass volume of information in this case. And humans are monitoring the progress of the teams and may want to intervene and change things. So again, it's that sort of flexible interplay between the two. So sort of with that in general is a specific example of humans and AI working together in partnership. And for me, I think that's a general example of how AI more generally will impact and will work in the marketplace, so in terms of affecting our everyday life. So I absolutely think that AI will make a difference to society. It's a very cross-cutting technology, and it will impact a lot of what we do. But I see a lot of it as an augmentation for jobs rather than a direct replacement for jobs. So as I said at the beginning, many jobs have automatable subtasks, and it's that partnership of complementary skills of humans and AI where you want to get the best of those things. So a couple of other examples where I think that will happen. So one is in the legal domain. We now have routinely available software that's capable of analyzing large volumes of legal data. So potentially automating the activity that legal clerks spend a lot of time doing. And so there was a study published last year that looked at the impact of AI software on legal clerks and the amount that were employed, and I think it was a US-based study. And actually what they found was that rather than replacing the clerks, which in some sense they're replacing some of the activity that clerks used to routinely do themselves, actually it had grown the market because legal companies were willing to take on more cases than they previously were, because it's a lower cost activity, because some of it is automated. So rather than sort of just saying, no, we're not going to take that case on, it will be too expensive for you or not competitive, actually the AI is lowering the price of it, and actually the number of legal clerks had gone up as a consequence, because you don't just want an automated outcome on those, you want some human interpretation of what is coming back. I think the same will happen in imagery with radiographers. And so what we constantly get a stream of sort of, an AI can detect from images, cancer better than oncologists, these sorts of diseases, and so on. And there's a constant stream of those. And I think what my view is that where this will end up is that will increase the throughput of these sorts of systems. But I think radiographers, highly trained people, will look at what the machines are producing and sort of focus on the interesting things rather than the things that are obviously not relevant, which the AI will be very good at filtering its way through. So I think in general, AI will augment jobs. There's been lots of studies around. So this is sort of the Frey and Osborne study from 2014 about job automatability, and sort of I picked this one because it was one of the first ones, and this has astonishingly high numbers of predictions of the amount of jobs that were going to be automated. So this has sort of as a high chance of being automated in a relatively short period of time of 35% of the population. This is the UK. These are figures for the UK. The US figure was even higher, so nearly half, and Japan was even higher from their study. And I just don't believe those things. They take together and sort of assume that because there's some degree of automatability, that the whole job is going to go. And I just don't believe AI is going to have that impact on our society. So a slightly more credible view on this is given by the OECD in 2016, and that sort of looks at percentages of tasks that are automatable. So sort of the grey bar is a greater than 70% of confidence or risk of being automated, and you see that kind of bubbles along around the sort of 10 to 15%, depending on the mix of jobs that you have within your economy. And the blue bars, which are the much bigger bars, are those where there's likely to be a change in tasks, so some degree of automatability rather than sort of automatability in its entirety. And I think that's a much more plausible scenario going forward. All of these studies, and I believe, I also believe this, that AI will cause some job losses. So this is not something specific to AI. It's been true of many technological innovations over the years, from the Luddites in this country onwards. A number of jobs will disappear or require many fewer workers. And also, I don't just think it will be jobs that are mainly manual in nature. I think this is one of the different things about AI, is that AI will automate or potentially partially automate bits of jobs that require high degrees of qualification and training to perform them. AI will also undoubtedly create new jobs. Here's a punt at some potential new jobs. Predicting new types of jobs that may come into existence in the future, I think, is always a slightly fraught example, because I think it's quite difficult to think of what those jobs might be. But luckily, there's a MIT Sloan Management Review last year which lists a number of these sorts of new jobs, things that just aren't around now, that AI will make possible, or will be created as a consequence of it. So in coming towards the end, I think there are a number of key challenges for AI and for systems that learn in general. So the first of these is around interpretability and transparency. Making the workings and rationale for the outputs understandable by humans is really important in a number of cases. So in our disaster response scenario, if you paid a lot of attention to the initial heat map, you will have seen sort of some areas where there are question marks appearing. So this let the human operator, you could click on it and it would give you a rough explanation of why it thought that was an interesting area to look at. So it wasn't just a black box that computer says that this is the area you should go to. It was able to give some articulation of its reasoning. That's because of the style of machine learning algorithm that it's using. Not all machine learning algorithms lend themselves to that form of transparency and explanation. And I think in some cases that's really important that it's able to do that. In some cases, a black box is fine. You just care about the output. In a whole range of other cases, I think you want to understand why the computer says something. Verification and robustness is of key importance for many complex systems, and verifying complex systems is is difficult in many cases. Can I just go back a slide, please? I will finish in time, don't worry. Thank you. And so verification is really important. Making machines better partners, I've spent a lot of time talking about learning how to cooperate and be better with us, and also determining out accountability. So who is responsible when things go wrong? And that's sort of brought into focus by a lot of work around autonomous vehicles. So to wrap up, I've tried to argue that rises in processing power, memory and data availability let us solve problems that we couldn't previously tackle. I think AI is central for many of these complex activities. AI is good for a wide range of impressive applications at narrowly defined tasks. Artificial general intelligence, as from the movies, is a long way off. I think AI is going to impact many aspects of our lives. And I think we should think of AI systems as partners that lead to a rise in the humans as well as in the robots. Thank you very much.